I just kind of run my fingers over it and put my glasses up on my head so it isn't sticking out everywhere. There you go again.
Welcome back to CJ Race Cars YouTube channel. It's January 1st, 2022. New Year's Day. Saturday, and Danny and Scott came into work to do some stuff.
New Year's Day.
They wanted to work. I didn't make them. They asked me. They begged, so I let them work.
Yeah, it's good. It's all good.
Danny came in to mount the seat on Clay Cole's car, and Scott did some welding today on Clay Cole's car. So we haven't done an update on Clay's car, and then in the last, we kind of been splitting up time between Monza's and Clay's. We're pretty much at a stopping point for the last 2 weeks with Monza's until we get carbon, so they've both been on Clay's. So there's been a lot get done on that car. So just wanted to do an update with Danny and Scott on Clay's car and show you kind of where we're at. The chassis is just about 100% done until we put the motor in it, and it needs the motor mount tubes and a few other really small stuff. The chassis is just about 100% done. Seats mounted, battery mounts in it, titanium lower control arms, struts. It's come a long way in like the last week and a half with both of them.
Yeah, back
sticking on.
The
Back's 100%.
Back section's basically done.
Back section's done.
Center of the car is 99% done.
Yeah, and the front's
Front
about
of the car
the
is
same.
like 80% done.
Yeah, very, very close. So next week there's a few bars Danny's going to work on Monday while Jesse's putting the quarter panels on, and our goal is next week to have the chassis done and most of the body mounted. I think that's a pretty realistic goal for next week, and having Scott welding as much as he has been welding. The car is pretty much welded other than what's underneath and stuff that's really hard to get to without flipping it around.
Yeah, there's probably what, 75%?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's close.
It's getting really close.
So that's been good, having that instead of getting close to the end and then having, you know, before Eddie would weld some or I'll weld some or whatever. But now Scott's here. He does also fit tubes, but he's been welding the majority of the time. He's got Monza's car pretty much welded where it's at, done, and then this car is welded. So things are going really smooth on this side of the shop. And just wanted to give you an update and let Danny explain to you what he's got going on, where we're at, how we got to here, and what's left. Danny?
Where do you want me to start?
Well, I think the last time we did a video, we were nowhere near this far. So
yeah, well, back here, what we did just recently was this bar we didn't have in yet. We didn't have this, and this.
I think all we had, the last video we did was this bar here. I don't think we had any of this.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that was the last video.
Yeah, well, if we stopped there, then we located this bar and put our center X in it. And then we put the body back on it temporarily to get a height on this so we don't have it hitting anything it shouldn't be hitting.
Right.
And then, so we figured out what we had to do with that. And then we bend this bar, put these laddering in it and this support. This bar in here, these two supports. So the back end of it right now is, except for maybe some, like we might put fire bottles back in there.
Yeah.
So we put the fire bottle mounts in there, we can do that. But this is pretty much done, except these get cut off, in case you're wondering, and they get capped.
Yeah, they don't stay long like that.
And funny car cage wise, it's pretty close to being done. We have to put a bar here that wraps around the corner of the seat, but we don't do that till we know where the seat's going, because we want the bar to be like this little jig I've got that kind of gives me an idea of what I'm doing. And it'll be something along this line here, but this will have a little more bend because it needs to come down in there. Basically, that's what the bar is going to do. And let's see what else we have.
So on the back, I don't know if we showed them the jig. So this is our new fixture that we have here. You can see we have these risers. This holds the parachute, tether bar, the back bar in the car, which that bar will never really change. So that'll be there. We have another fixture just like this getting made for this tube and this tube, which will make Danny's life a a whole lot easier. And I think
So much better.
I think we've showed you the old jig we had before. It worked good. It just took a little bit of setup. Obviously, these holes are identical, so we bolt it down, put our height up, and it's ready to go in 15 minutes. You know, before it was an hour, probably really getting that thing squared and perfect.
The old jig floated.
Yeah.
So with this one, all we have to do is, like, if our height stays the same, we don't have to change our height. Forward and back, that will change on car to car.
Mm-hmm.
So you just slide it where you want it. Your height is there. You don't have to worry about the bar being this way or this way, this way or this way. If you just have these, you know, once you set them the exact same height, you're done. So much quicker.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be a lot quicker. And like I said, once we get the jig for this and this, that'll be quicker too. These bars are more determined off, height is determined off of where the window is. Obviously with the steel roof and quarters cars, this back section changes a little more than if you had a carbon body car. It was for a pro mod. This stuff would all be really high and you could pretty much do it the same. So depending on what rear end they're using, where the anti-roll bar mount is for the rear end is kind of where the anti-roll bar goes. Obviously this, you know, distance here to here straight up. So it's kind of, there's a lot to it, really.
There's a lot of thought in that right there.
Yeah, this area right here.
Has to all kind of, this can't be up into your window naturally. This can't be to where it hits the piece of sheet metal that goes across. The anti-roll bar, you want to have this spread if you can versus a lot narrower because it makes it
the more
stronger.
spread, the stronger here. Same thing with the back section. You don't want those two tubes to be really, really close or else it kind of takes away your up and down
We
strength.
try to locate this bar in a general area where it's right around where the shock mount's going to be.
Yep.
So there's a lot of thought going right there, and Cameron's the one that didn't sleep at night a few nights figuring all that out.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of thought that goes in there, and obviously trying to make it function, be as strong as it can also is the big thing. That's why you can see a lot of this stuff is in that corner to corner here. There's a lot that goes right into this area and into this anti-roll bar. You can also see we put a tab on the front and we run that into the corner. This has a lot of stress right here, so you want that area to be really strong. The shocks also, but not nearly as important as this. This has a lot of stress right here. So that area is strong. What else? Oh, I was going to show them how you notch these tubes. This bottom tube back here is 1.5 inches. The top tube's 1.25 inches. Obviously on some cars that'll change. On the Scion, this was 1.25 inches. This was 1 inch. Only because the car was so light. It was a carbon body, not a lot of downforce, and just a totally different build. But these cars, they pile a bunch of weight back here sometimes for the no prep deal. So this is what we use. But our tub comes up from here, which is 1.5 inches. Our tub comes up here and also mounts to this tube a little bit. So Danny offset notches this 1.25 inches, so that's to the outside of this 1.5 inches, which is a decent amount of work.
It's more thought than actual time because you have to set the notcher up. Our notcher, you can raise the V notch and it holds the tube. So you can raise it up and then offset notch it. Well, the trick is one of these is going to get raised up and one of them you're going to have it below center.
Mm-hmm.
So since the V notch does not go below center, you take a piece of metal, flat metal like aluminum, and cover the V notch up so you don't use it. I know I might be getting off track here a little bit, but you then space the tube up and notch on the underside of the cutter to make it that way. And so
one side's a lot easier than the other. One of the notches is easier, yeah.
The setup time is what takes the time to make the notch because it's just set up.
Yeah, but I thought that was something cool because I don't think anyone really thinks of this, you know, but it helps attach the tub to here. It gives us a little more room in here because, you know, these guys run a lot wider wheel and a big tire. And with a steel body, sometimes you can't get the tires out far enough. So we want to keep a decent amount of room in here if we want to put the fire bottles. We usually mount them in the driver's area. I think from now on, we're going to make it to where you can either put them in the front or the back. We'll have a cable going to both. We'll have mounts in both. That way, if you want to move weight, you can move fire bottles instead of actually having to add weight. You can move ballast that you already have. So that's going to be something we're going to do. Every car we build, we get feedback and we try to change. Hopefully we don't ever build the same thing twice, and we learn something every car we build and better them from there.
We use the same technique in the front frame rails.
Yeah, show them that, Danny, on the laddering.
The laddering of the front. You need sometimes a lot of clearance in here for maybe an oil pump or something off the side of the motor or just general clearance. So what we do is, since this rail is always wider than this one for that reason also, these diagonals in here, they're not center of the tube. They're offset to the outside of the tube and somewhat to the outside of this tube. So we move it out a little bit.
Yeah, you can see it.
That's a little time consuming also to get all that, because there's 8 of them. And so that's 16 offset notches. And you're gonna have half one way, half the other way.
Yeah.
So you're over there changing cutters and changing positions and all that. I've done a few of them, so I'm kind of used to it, but the first one was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of planning that goes into how this ladder's laid out. They look pretty even, but if you really look at them, this front one's a little different. The reasoning for that on this car is because with the Pro Charger, there's only one spot the rack can go. If you get the motor low enough, the rack can't fit anywhere besides in one general spot.
You've got about this much of an area you can put that rack.
That's it.
That's it, front to back, that's all we'll do.
So if you can see, we got a little gap. This right here is where the rack goes. That has a little bigger gap between those tubes and these tubes. So that's kind of laid out like that, just for the rack, and there's a lot of placement where all this stuff goes. The front tube, make sure you can pull the blower off. There's a lot of thought that goes into some of this stuff.
We strategically picked this spot because that is where the tube comes down for the front motor plate. So we have the tube that holds the motor in the front with the plate lined up right where these two meet.
Right, so it has strength up and down.
Yeah, and same thing with the rack. We have, so they meet there. And then up there, of course, it's where all the tubes come together.
Right. And this tube goes halfway through this sleeve here and is capped off. The burn down tubes will go into here and all the way to the back. So that's why we do it like this. The fuel cell mount will slide into here, 1 1/4 inch, this 1 3/8. What else, Danny? Also we started running these, just little stuff like this. We started running this tube here, right all the way into the corner, which before we would just get close. Now it keeps it from having any flex in that corner there. So that's something different. Door bars, we lowered them. We lower those all the way into the corner of both. Little stuff, it doesn't necessarily make a huge difference, but it makes it a little stronger. There's also a few tubes. What's that there? That's the X.
We run it up into the corner too.
Yeah, it'll be up into the corner there. So just, it makes all the joints a little stiffer, a little stronger. Also, there's a tube that we're gonna add to this car that we haven't added in another car, and it's not really required, just for safety purposes. We're going to, I think, add a tube here. It's a big open area. SFI doesn't require it, but with this big of an area and you're only required to have a 3/4 inch eye bar, I just worry about anything trying to come in a driver compartment if anything bad happened.
From about right here, it'll go up to here, and it'll follow this contour.
Yeah, it'll look pretty much like a second hoop back here, just to there. It's not gonna go all the way down. Obviously, if something happens on that side of the car, you have a lot of a crush basically before anything would ever get to the driver.
Your eyebrow bar, keep your head
well,
from
you have
into it.
Yeah, you have the X's over there in the main hoop. A lot of crush area over there. On this side, you don't. I mean, if something comes in, if something were to come in this hole here at that 3/4 inch tube, or even if we do a 1 inch tube, which we do sometimes, it's still not.
Yeah, that would get maybe crushed and bent, and
yeah. So we're gonna
your head, it's your head.
So we're gonna add that tube. I think we're gonna fit it Monday and see what we think and go from there. But I think we might start adding that on every car. Clay also wants to do the titanium head surround, so all this will be titanium. He'll have the ISP head sports on the inside, port and seat also. Obviously, we want to save weight. We want these cars to be light, but we want them to be safe. They got to be safe. That's one of the most important things. So I think that's about it for this. I think we've pretty much covered everything. We have titanium control arms in. Lightweight battery mount for our Braille batteries that we do. We sell and stock the Braille batteries and mounts. That's all we use in all these cars. I think that's it, Danny. We got just about everything for this car. We got the carbon, we got the body, we got the wheels, we got the tires, got just about everything in.
It little by little.
Yeah. Yep, dude, we're gonna do that too Monday. See what we think about that. Danny's got some Zeus tabs on the seat, and we should have the body mounted in the next week. Daniel have it at the track in 2 weeks.
Before the body goes on.
Yeah, no, we got to do that
before the body goes on.
100%. So, all right, guys. Well, that's it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll update you again next week.
Yep.
See ya.
Bye.